and welcome to this special episode of the Wine Pair Podcast. I'm Joe, your sommelier of reasonably priced wine, and for this special episode, I'm on my own as my wine pairing partner in crime, Carmela, is busy making cakes for her Baby Cakes micro bakery, which, by the way, you can learn more about if you go over to her website at lovebabykakes.com. But today, we've got a special treat. We are going to introduce you to Jun Kono, president and master sake brewer at Sohomare, and Leo Lê Sommelier of Kappo Sono and Momoya in New York. And Sohomare is one of the great sakes in the world. But first, as a quick orientation to what we usually do in our podcast. In most episodes, we learn about, taste, and review 2 to 3 wines that are reasonably priced, which means under $25 and should be easy to find. However, for this special set of episodes, we interview people who are involved in actually making wine, or in this case, making sake, because part of what we want to do with our podcast is to educate ourselves and you out there in listening land on different aspects of wine knowledge in a fun, entertaining, and unstuffy way, and even fun and entertaining, as Decanter Magazine calls our podcast. And that's what we're doing today. And a small plug before we get to the interview with Jun and Leo. If you like what you're hearing or are interested in hearing our other regular episodes, please subscribe to or follow our podcast so you can hear more, especially since you're only getting one half of the Wine Pair Podcast in this episode. And you can also go to our website, thewinepairpodcast.com, to send us a note or subscribe to our newsletter. And you can follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at the Wine Pair Podcast. And if you like what you're hearing, you can even leave us a nice rating and review. We won't mind. But with that, let's head over to the interview with Jun Kono and Leo Lê, and you will love this interview and learning more about sake, something we don't cover too often in the podcast, but is often connected to wine. Get ready to learn a ton and have a great time. Hi, Leo and Jun, and welcome to the Wine Pair Podcast.
Hi.
Bye.
We are so excited to have you and to share with our listeners something a little different, and that is a deep dive into artisanal, high-quality sake. So if you're ready, I think we'll just jump into the questions.
Yes, I'm ready.
Great. That's great. Okay, we're going to start first with you, Leo, and we're just going to tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background and your family, and if wine or sake or even fine dining played any part in your growing up.
Yeah, not really. Fine dining and wine and sake was pretty absent in my childhood. I was a lifelong New Yorker, born and raised in upstate New York, outside of a city called Rochester. But I did grow up in restaurants. My mother and my father, they ran Vietnamese restaurants of all types of cuisines, but it's Vietnamese restaurants all throughout the 80s in Rochester, when this population or this area doesn't really know a lot about Vietnamese cuisine. But this is really why I think I have a connection to restaurants. But yes, alcohol, much less sake, didn't really play a role in my upbringing at all, except for, I don't know, Genesee cream ale and these big jugs of Carlo Rossi California Chablis that my father would drink and cook with. But other than that, not really. And I went downstate to go to college and eventually grad school. And I'm actually a grad school dropout, and I dropped out to dedicate myself full time to the restaurant industry. And throughout university, I worked in all types of Japanese restaurants where I was exposed to sake, and really I've been hooked since. And now it's my 23rd year in the industry.
Well, that's fantastic. In a little bit, we're going to dig into how you got into sake. But Jun, if you don't mind, we'll turn to you. You have a long background, or your family has a long background in sake making. So yes, very clearly there was sake in your background, but tell us a little bit about your background, what role the sake business played, and sort of your family and the traditions around it.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jun. The family name is Kono. The Kono family, maybe I can say the Kono clan, has its roots in Shikoku. It's in the western side of Japan. We were there until mid-16th century. The Kono clan is a samurai in Ehime Prefecture in Shikoku district. But those times, there was a civil war in Japan, and our family was defeated. So we couldn't live there, and we ran away from Shikoku to Gifu Prefecture to hide ourselves for several generations. In Gifu Prefecture, we couldn't call ourselves Kono, and we called ourselves Takemura. That is the family name of the relatives in order not to be killed. Then in the Edo period, we went to Shiga Prefecture, that is next to Gifu, and we first made miso and vinegar, then to the sake. And in the beginning of Meiji era, that is 1872, we came to the current place, Tochigi Prefecture, and we started sake making here. And from that point, I am the fifth generation of the family, and I'm working with my son, and he will be the sixth. And I have a children, and one of them will be the seventh. That the family history. Thank you.
That is amazing. Amazing. Thank you for that explanation of the history. Now, when you were growing up, did you always expect that you would run the family business? Or was there ever a time where you thought, I'm not sure if I want to do this?
Actually, I was raised at the sake brewery, so I always thought that I would take over the family business from a young age.
And when you were young, you spent time in the brewery, but were you involved in the sake making process even as a child?
No, no, I was just raised, and I was at the brewery until at the age of 18. Then I went to the university in Tokyo.
Now, you are a brewmaster of sake.
Well, I can say the brewmaster, that is in Japanese toji.
Mhm.
The brewmaster is the responsible for making sake. So I am the owner, and at the Sohomare we have the brewmaster. I'm not the brewmaster.
I see. Were you ever involved in actually making the sake?
Yes, just after returning to the brewery.
So tell us a little bit about what it was like to actually make the sake and how that may have helped you or impacted you as the owner and the person running the brewery.
My idea is the brewmaster is the carpenter to make the house, and the owner is the designer of the house. That is my opinion.
Very good. Okay, Leo, let's go back to you. How did you get into sake and how did you become an expert on sake and Japanese beverages?
I think it's just pure desperation. My first job was at my university's library, and minimum wage wasn't going to cut it at 18, especially if you wanted to take girls out on dates. And actually, this friend of mine took me to my first Japanese restaurant, actually, and gave me sushi for the first time. It was like a spicy salmon roll or something, and I was really hooked. And sake for the very first time when I was 18, away from home. It was an extremely busy restaurant and a lucrative one at that. And so I was just amazed at that meal, and I asked for a serving position right after the dinner, and the rest is history. And it was just restaurants after restaurants, working in different Japanese restaurants for the last 2 decades.
And so, how did you meet or learn about Jun and his sake?
Well, I tried Kono-san's sake for the first time in maybe the early 2000s, maybe the mid 2000s. There's this really expansive sake bar, it's subterranean, in Midtown Manhattan called Sakagura. And during that time, the Japanese restaurants that I was working at were out in Long Island, and they didn't really have an extensive sake list. And so I would always have to go into Manhattan to go to the sake bars to expand my knowledge. And so I was actually introduced to Kono-san sake through my mentor and my very good friend now. It's a sake samurai by the name of Timothy Sullivan. And he was one of the first non-Western sake sommeliers. And we met each other very early in his career. And so, yeah, everything just kind of snowballed after that. He introduced me to a lot of different types of sake. We went to a lot of sake tastings. But yeah, it was in the mid 2000s when I tried Sohomare's examples from Sohomare for the very first time.
And then when did you get the chance to actually meet?
Much after that, I think. I didn't meet Kono-san until maybe in the mid 2000 teens, perhaps, maybe 2017, 18.
And I should just mention that before we started, I asked Kono-san how I should address him. He left it up to me, and so I'm calling him Jun, but Kono-san is the correct way to address somebody of his stature.
Yeah, I can't call him Jun. I have to call him.
So, Jun or Kono-san, what do you think makes your sake special? What do you really focus on in the types of sake that your brewery makes?
I think what is very important is crafting sake through precise microbial management. In Japan, there is some trend that to be natural is very good, but to make sake is to control the microorganism. I think that is the correct way to make sake. So that is our idea of making Sohomar. And we should have certain goal. What is our ideal flavor for sake? We should seek for that. And in my opinion, the sake should have deep complexity, and sake should have depth, finesse, and maybe that should be overpower and aromas. So to achieve that goal, we have three important things. One is the sake rice called Yamada Nishiki, and we can find over 100 varieties of sake rice in Japan. But I think that the Yamada Nishiki sake rice is the very best. The second is the Kimoto method. It's a classical method of making Japanese sake. And the third is the blending of sake. So every 3 points can be very popular words for making Japanese sake, but we have Sohomar's characters for Yamada Nishiki, Kimoto, and blending. The first one, the sake rice Yamada Nishiki, we choose the Yamada Nishiki from over 100 varieties of sake rice, and we buy it from the best region in Hyogo Prefecture. Inside Hyogo Prefecture, there are three groups of rice fields, A, B, C, and we buy it 100% from A region in Hyogo Prefecture. And inside the A region, we think that the Yokawa region is the very best for our sake. And next to Yokawa, there is a region called Tojo, and we buy maybe more than 50% from Yokawa and 40% from Tojo and a few percent from next to Tojo. So that's the rice field for Yamada Nishiki in Sohomar Sake Brewery. And it's very difficult to buy the Yamada Nishiki from Yokawa region in Hyogo Prefecture because Yamada Nishiki was born in 1936 and they have a strong relationships in the brewers in Nada in Hyogo Prefecture. But we are in Japan, like how many kilometers? I can say 400 miles away from the rice field. So we have to go there every year to drink with farmers, to drink with Farmers Association. Human relationship is very, very important to get the very best Yamada Nishiki from the very best rice field. And for Kimoto, it's a very ancient way of making Japanese sake. It's the method of making yeast starter. It's very natural, but because it's natural, we should have a very clean atmosphere in the brewery. And to make Kimoto in the very clean atmosphere, that makes our sake in a very clean finish. And the third point is blending. We have Kimoto Junmai Daiginjo that is in the menu of Leo-san's restaurant. That is Tuxedo. And Tuxedo is the blending of 13 different batches and 3 different vintages. And we use 3 different yeast to make the complexity and to make the depth in the flavors. Nowadays, the Japanese sake tends to be very fresh, very aromatic, but the Sohomar Tuxedo is in the opposite side. So that are the 3 main points. What is different from others after Sohomar Sake Brewery. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that explanation. That's very helpful. A lot of our listeners don't know much about sake or how it's made. And so I think that's a wonderful way to explain to them how it's made and how much care you put into it. So, Leo, because Kono-san is very humble, can you talk about what you really like about his sake?
Definitely. Kono-san's right in that. I mean, I remember we had a conversation maybe a few years ago, and it was this influx of what I call new school sake that were being imported to the United States and to the New York market. And they're usually made by younger producers who are trying to react against kind of an old school style or Kono-san style of sake. And they are indeed fresher and more wine-like and instantly gratifying. And oftentimes it's doesn't really have staying power. You know, you drink kind of this new school sake, it's sweet, it's kind of layered and it's hyper aromatic, but in the end you don't experience the finesse and the depth of flavor and really the quality that goes into Kono-san sake. I don't know if I'm getting older that I tend to gravitate towards the older school styles of sake now, but yeah, I'm in my fourth decade now, and I really, if I see Sohomare in a sushi restaurant, or particularly a restaurant where it's an omakase and you're having a long dinner and you just want to focus on one sake, it would be Sohomare, in my opinion. Again, everything is really virtuistically in balance. Aromatically, it's not too much. It's kind of restrained and elegant. Again, there's this finesse to it. It's really precise. The palate, texturally, again, it's really sharp and clear. It's something that it's really hard to put down. Like all these examples from Sohomare, it's really hard to stop sipping. A lot of these new school sakes, you have maybe a glass and a half and you're kind of finished with it because they're often too cloying or it's perhaps just to get bored of it. But now, yes, I think with age and with experience, I think I would prefer like older school sake, like Kono-san sake.
Thank you very much for your appreciation.
Yeah.
And I think, Leo, the way that you explained it is, I think often the way that people come to wine drinking as well, where very often the first types of wines are the maybe more simple wines or the more, the easier to access. And then a lot of people gravitate towards more complexity, more richness, more something more contemplative. And it sounds very much similar to how Kono-san makes their sake.
Mhm.
Let me ask you one more question, Leo, if you don't mind. So, you are a sommelier, you think very much about pairing food and wine together. So when you think about sake, Kono-san sake, what are you thinking about in terms of the right ways to pair it with food? What types of foods are you thinking about pairing it with?
I think Kono-san sake, it's really versatile. It tends to go along with a lot of different types of ingredients and cuisines. Sake in general, because it's made from rice, and rice has a lot of amino acids, and so it tends to inherently have a lot of umami already. So I think the sake does the work itself of pairing. But with Kono-san's really elegant sake, I think it would, I come from a lot of Japanese restaurants, so I pair it with a lot of Japanese dishes and ingredients. But I was thinking about cuisines that are outside of Japan, and I think with pasta dishes, you're Italian, Joe. So I think pasta dishes are delicious paired with sohomare. Again, it's this finesse and this elegance. So I was thinking like a vongole pasta, some sort of linguine that's really kind of unctuous and has this touch of lemon and acidity to it. Tends to, I think, pair nicely with Sohomare. Sohomare again has this umami-ness to it, has this high acidity to it that tends to, I think, pair nicely with pasta dishes like that. I, in fact, bought Sohomare to a French restaurant one time. I bought it to Nougatine, which is this restaurant that's beside Jean Georges' restaurant. And so I often go there for cocktails a lot. But this time I had sake in my bag, so I just took it out, and the bartenders know me there. And so I just decided that we were gonna pair Sohomare with a whole bunch of appetizers from this bar. And it went deliciously with Jean-Georges does this foie gras dish where he caramelizes the top of the foie gras. And so you have kind of this texture, but you have this sweetness, but then you have this really umami bomb in this dish. And then you pair it again with this really elegant sake that has this backbone of umami to it. And it went really well together. Not just Japanese cuisine, French, Italian.
Well, you beat me to it because you are both invited to come to Seattle anytime and come to our family dinner, Sunday night dinners. We do it's an Italian American version of food, but you're very welcome to come. We would be honored if you would come and that you bring Sohomare sake with you, and we will find the right ways to pair it. We'll work it out ahead of time. I do have one more question before we get to how people can find Sohomare and Kono-san's sake. I imagine it's important to you that Sohomare is always consistently excellent. And you mentioned a lot of blending of different vintages as well as blending of different
Batches and
batches. Yes. How do you make sure that every year, because every year is different in terms of the weather and the everything, how do you ensure that your sake is consistently excellent?
Sohomai Tuxedo, it's Kimoto Junmai Daiginjo. We make bottling not once a year. We bottle Tuxedo maybe 7 times, 8 times a year. So every time we bottle it, before bottling, we should make a decision. What's the blending ratio of the batches? For example, we make tasting over 15 different batches. That is from aged 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. And one batch is fermented by one single yeast, but we use 3 different yeast. Yeast number 1401, yeast number 7, and yeast number 6. So we make the blending and we make sure that this batch is whether the same quality as the one before bottling, or we should do maybe even better than the last one. So that makes the quality or consistency of the Sohomare. And it's very interesting that the tasting as a work and tasting after work with a dinner is completely different, or sometimes different. So I do tasting as a work at the brewery, but sometimes when I go to New York and I ordered a glass of tuxedo as a dinner, was sometimes different. And sometimes I asked the sommelier to show me the bottle and the back label of the Sohomare, the bottling date is indicated. So I remember my work like 6 months ago tasting, and this time in New York to taste it as a dinner. And sometimes I confirm it is good, or sometimes I should make maybe these bottles to add a few percent more than the other time. So that is how I make this decision. And about 10 days ago, I had a Sohomai sake dinner in a Four Seasons resort in Maui. And I had 5 different glasses of Sohomare after Sohomare pairing dinner. And I was thinking about the taste with enjoying the dinner. And sometimes it tends to be a work, but I was reflecting the decision what I made 3 months ago or 4 months ago. Well, that's very interesting. Thank you.
It's amazing that you know the batches, you know the different blending, the taste of specific bottlings. That's amazing. What an amazing palate you have, and just so much experience with sake.
Well, I think my palate is good or not, but as the owner, I think I should make the decision. So sometimes it's wrong, but it's good.
Yes. Yeah, that's your responsibility. That's wonderful.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that you would like to cover before we finish?
After enter the university, I entered the university in 1980 and I studied the economics. And in 81, I traveled Europe for 30 days with a backpack with a friend of mine. And France fascinates me. And I went to France in 82 for 9 months drinking. And a friend of mine who traveled with me in 81, he also was fascinated by France. So he's now a Japanese ambassador in France. Interesting story.
Did you learn anything on that trip because you had grown up with the brewery, et cetera? Did you learn anything on that trip about French wines, et cetera, that influenced you at all in terms of when you came back?
I think my palate during stays in France, drinking wines. After France, I went to the States for 30 days trip, and at that time I went to Napa Valley in '83. So those kind of foods make some impacts to my palate, and also the family cooking at my house, my mother's cooking and my wife's cooking, that makes my palate.
Wonderful. Well, it's been so nice to talk to you both. I really appreciate it. I think that our listeners are going to just love hearing all this information about sake. I mean, again, we focus so much on wine, but this is one of the great beverages of the world. Before we go, I do want to give people a chance to know where to find you. So, is there a website, social media? Are there ways in which they can find Sohomare and you as well, Leo?
Well, I feel like I'm still living in the 90s, so I'm not tech savvy at all. I do a lot of scrolling, but I'm not really active on social media. But you can find me on Instagram at Leo Baole. It's just Leobaole. You can send me messages there. But most of the time I'm in the restaurants that we own in New York. So you can find me at Kappo Sono. You can find me at all the Momoya restaurants, all of these restaurants that I have jurisdiction over. The beverages, there will be examples of Sohomare always. So you can definitely find a glass or a bottle at these restaurants.
Excellent. And Kono-san, is there a way that our listeners can find you?
The importer of Sohomare in the States is the World Sake Imports. When you see the website of the World Sake Imports, you can find the information about the Sohomare. They import 14 different sake breweries, and Sohomare is one of the 14. The website is worldsake.com. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for being on the show and looking forward to seeing you. And honestly, come to Seattle. We will have you for dinner.
My pleasure. I'd like to go there. And Leo, maybe next time in New York.
Oh, yes, most definitely. Not maybe, definitely.
Definitely. Next April, we will have a job sake there.
Okay, good.
That'll
We'll see
be
you.
on the 30th
Great. So yes, we'll see you in April then.
or before that.
That'll be fun.
I might have to join you both.
Oh,
Thank
yes.
you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for listening to our interview with Jun Kono, or Kono-san, and Leo. And, sake is not something that we know a ton about. So it was super fascinating for me to hear more about the classical style of sake they make, how it's different from the newer types of sake, and how it can go with so many different types of cuisines. That's really something I didn't know. And we really hope you'll look for Sohomare sake and that you will look out for the restaurants that Leo is responsible for as well. And in case you were worried about how to get in touch with Leo and June or how to find them, don't worry. You can find out all this information on our website, thewinepairpodcast.com, in our show notes for this episode. Just find this episode, click down on the show notes, and you'll find it. But here it is again, so you have the information. Sohomare, the website is sohomare.co.jp, and then you have a /EN_FR. That's for English and French. And you can find them there in English. And then Instagram is at Sohomare, Sohomare. That's how you spell Sohomare. The Sohomare distributor, again, is World Sake Imports. Their website is worldsake.com, and Instagram is also World Sake Imports. And then for Leo Lee, his Instagram is Leo Bao Lei. It is LeoBaole, and that's how you find them. So please check them out. Check out the sake. We think that you'll enjoy it and have a great time. And with that, we're going to go. So we hope you'll visit us again. Come to our podcast, subscribe to our podcast, The Wine Pair Podcast, and follow us on Instagram and visit our website at thewinepairpodcast.com. And you can always reach out to us, and you can sign up for our newsletter there. We always respond to you when you reach out to us. You can also reach out directly to me at joe@thewinepairpodcast.com. If you want more information, you have wines you're interested in, or sake, or winemakers or sake makers that you'd like us to talk to, and we look forward to hearing from you. But with that, it's time to go, and as we like to say, life is short, so stop drinking shitty wine. Bye-bye.